What is up, everyone? Bognaze here. Today I'm bringing you a different kind of video. I'm going to do a one-to-one review. As some of you know who watch my Twitch, recently I have been playing this tank a lot, and recently 3-marked it. And so I'm just going to have a discussion about what equipment I ran on it in order to 3-mark it, what my ammo layout was, my equipment choices, and my crew choices. So as you know, the 121 is the end of the tier 10 Chinese medium tank line, and it is a pretty good tank in my opinion. It's probably one of the tanks that I've liked the most within this game, and it's one of the quickest tanks at tier 10 I've 3-marked. So just going over crew skills, basically, if you do grind this line, you should have a pretty good line. However, I didn't. I free XP'd all the way to the WZ120 and played it from there. So currently, I've had accelerated crew training on while I've been playing this tank. So in around 355 battles, which is what I've played in this tank so far, I have 4 crew skills. So you can see, like, you can get a pretty decent crew. And if you do have a female crew, I would, and you like playing Chinese tanks, because you could also then rotate your tank through around to the 113. I would suggest putting a female crew in this tank because it is due to get a buff next patch. More on that later. So for crew skills, we have Brothers in Arms. That's a given for this tank. It has amazing DPM, and so just having Brothers in Arms is obviously going to increase that. Obviously, it's not going to be your first crew skill. Your first crew skill on this tank, in my opinion, should be repairs. No other crew skill should be first. Simply because this is a brawling tank. It is not really a sniper, even though it has fairly decent accuracy. But it can snipe, but it shouldn't snipe, is what I'm trying to say there. Is it has decent accuracy, but the gun can be a little bit derpy, and the aim time doesn't really lend itself to sniping. It is a brawling tank, and it has decent hull armor. So Brothers in Arms, obviously 6 cents, full repairs, and for the gunner, I have Snapshot and Smooth Ride for the driver, and Situational Awareness for the loader, who also doubles as the radio operator. Now, on this tank, I do not run safe stowage. The reason for that is, while playing the tank, I found that I did not get ammo rack that often, and now with bringing in with the new patch the use of resumable consumables, I find that the use of safe stowage is probably not as good a choice anymore. Obviously, having a permanent or a damaged ammo rack is always a bad thing, or was a bad thing prior to this last patch. However, now with the use of reusable consumables, one-shot ammo racks happen so uncommonly that it's probably a better choice now to pick another crew skill over safe stowage, unless you're in a tank that has an extremely weak ammo rack. I guess the T110E5 would be a perfect example of that. That gets shot in the side, and it pretty much gets ammo racked every time, and it is prone to getting one-shot ammo racked quite often. Same for, I guess, for the Centurion Action X, and maybe a few other tier 10s which I like that as well. However, in my opinion, safe stowage is not needed on this tank for the loader. Instead, I ran Situational Awareness to try and increase the maximum view range, and then for my last crew skill, I ran Firefighting over Camo or anything else that you'd probably normally put on a tier 10 medium tank at tier 10. The reason for that is, obviously, I only have 4 crew skills, and the fourth one only being at 70%. And so the decision I made was to run food on this tank while I was attempting to 3-mark it, and not run a fire extinguisher. Now, that can be very dangerous on this tank. This tank can be set on fire frontally, extremely easily, in fact. And so therefore, firefighting, in my opinion, is there to try and negate that a little bit, and definitely it did help me. I did get set on fire quite often playing this tank, so a fire extinguisher could be used in place of food, and if you want to save some credits, it most definitely should. In my opinion, from this patch onwards, not running a med kit and not running a repair kit, either large or small, regardless of what they are, is a must. You must run a med kit and a repair kit now with the arty stun changes that have been introduced into the game. And so now your choice comes down to whether you run on your third equipment slot. You either run food or you either run fire extinguisher. Now, while playing this tank, as I said, I did get set on fire a lot, and it is extremely frustrating. So what I have seen people do prior to this current patch, and it's something you might want to experiment with, is dropping the med kit for a fire extinguisher if you feel like you're getting set on fire a lot, but you still want to run food. That would be the only other choice that you could possibly go for. I feel like the ammo rack is pretty vulnerable frontally as well here. So you do get ammo racked. I wouldn't say every game, but it does happen fairly often, and obviously it has quite large tracks, and obviously with the current minus 3.5 degrees of gun depression, you're going to need to expose yourself unless you find the perfect hold down position quite a lot, so you can get tracked, etc. quite often. So losing that repair kit is a no, essentially. In terms of equipment loadout, up until about the 280 game mark, I ran vertical stabilizer, rammer, and vents. And then as I got to around 92%, I basically got the tank up to 94.7 with vents on the marks, and then I was just having bad games. I eventually switched to optics to just try and play a little bit more passively, because when I was getting really close to 95%, I was trying to just play more aggressively to try and farm that damage. And again, this is a brawling tank, and I'll show you some gameplay of some brawling and some just a long-range gameplay in a little bit. This is going to be a fairly long video, probably about 20 minutes. So if you're thinking it's going to be short, probably leave now. You can probably see it in the YouTube length, actually. And anyway, so I'll show you some statistics on the sessions, but with optics, my spotting went from around 450 average spot assists per game to around 600, 650, something like that. So yeah, for me, it definitely helped. I've calculated the difference between spotting and no optics and optics, and the difference is 131 damage per minute between optics and vents. And in my opinion, 130 DPM per minute is not worth it. I feel like optics helped me a lot to 3-mark this tank. So that's my opinion. You can definitely play around with both. Don't get me wrong, I had amazing games with both vents and optics on, and I'll show you a game with one of those differences. But yeah, it's definitely a choice that you have to make, is what I'm saying. Both are valid choices, but yeah. Okay, in terms of ammo loadout, while I was 3-marking, I ran 8 AP and 30 heat, and that was simply because due to the previous buffs to the mouse and the Type 5 Heavy, it is not uncommon to see 2 or even 3 or even sometimes 4 or 5 super heavies per game now. And again, as I was saying, this tank is a brawler. It is not a sniper. You want to get up close and personal with the enemy with your 440 average damage, and when you roll 500, 550 max rolls, it is unbelievable to be able to doing this every 7 seconds, just over 7 seconds. So it's really good. I actually found myself, while 3-marking, not firing that much AP. Yes, I'm a dirty gold spammer, but what I'll do now is, once I have 3-marked it, I'll go back to a normal loadout. I'll probably run 20 heat, 18 AP. So you still need, in my opinion, on most tier 10 mediums, around 20 to 25 heat just to deal with the super heavies that are in the game now. As a player that likes to play aggressive now, you need that heat in order to deal with these mouses and these Type 5s. They're frankly overpowered, as we all know, and so you need that heat to just be able to fight them. The AP itself is pretty good. It's got 258 average penetration, which is decent, and it's AP, so it gets obviously better. What's the word? You guys will know what it is. I'm sure you'll correct me in the comments, but it gets better, like, angle of attack. I can't remember the exact word for it. It escapes me right now, but I think it has 5 degrees of this angle of attack extra, whereas APCR, etc., only has -3, or 3 degrees rather. I'm sure I'll think of the word here in a minute. Anyway, And then I have just 2 HE rounds. They would usually used to deal with like arty cleanup at the end of a game, or like if you knew that you were going to be fighting a grill or something like that head on, and you wanted to be able to do them. And obviously, like the HE rounds, they don't do that much extra damage. So I think their average is like 500. So they're not that useful, to be honest, and they only have 68 mil of pen. So I used to run 2 of them. I didn't really use them. I found that normally just if I had a really good game, I could almost come to running out of ammo on this thing. So while it may seem like a lot, like 40 rounds is not a lot for a tier 10 tank, especially when you have a high damaging game or you miss a couple of shots. So yeah, as we've already talked about crew equipment, so I won't go off on that too much more. Yeah, so let's go ahead and let's look at some replays. The first replay I'm going to look at is from quite a while ago. It was patch 9.17, and this is a replay in my 1-2-1 here on steps. This was, I think this is my YouTube video that I made. I featured on my channel, and also I sent this replay to Stewie JP. For him to check it out. And this was a pretty high damage game. I think this was like 7.5 or 8k damage, and you can see like straight away this position on steps is really, really strong in this tank, especially if you do not get pushed and you have support sitting behind you. So just gonna sit here and gonna play off my turret, and you're gonna see like this turret is really strong on this tank. It is really strong. It does have obvious weak points, and those weak points are those 2 crew hatches on top. The crew commander's hatch, which is the largest one, as you can see it there, is quite big and can be easily penetrated with even standard 8 ammo on most tier 10. So it is fairly big and easy to hit. So yeah, you just need to be aware of that and try and hide it as much as possible, or juke backwards and forwards. So here we are, we're fighting tanks hold down, and they don't want to push me. This IS-3 is just going full YOLO for me now. And so I'm just going to try and pen him once, and he's going to ram into me. And you can see, like, it is quite maneuverable, this tank. Like, it has really good maneuverability. I actually bounced a heat round on him there, so that sort of sucked, but it's all right. We'll pick up the kill on him there. He bounced me as well, and he shot, I think, into my turret there and bounced me. So I'm going to go back to this position and just play off my turret here. So, again, I think I was lagging during this game. Yeah, I've got, like, 180 ping, so there was some of the shots were a bit dodgy. 160 ping at the moment, but you can see that with this heat it's super strong, and this is pre E5 nerf, so this game, so obviously heat for the cupola, and just heat in general on this tank is extremely strong with, I think it's 330 or 340 pen. We'll check that after the game. It's probably 340, I think, for the gun caliber. So here you can see I'm fighting another 1-2-1, and there it is. There's a cupola pen. It is quite easy to hit them when they are hold down. So if you're fighting a 1-2-1 and you need to try and kill him, and he's rocking backwards and forwards like this, okay. Also, the roof is overmatchable. So if you're fighting with a 122 or higher gun, generally the roof is overmatchable. So a 113 or something like that, or a Russian tank, Russian IS-7, IS-4 or something like that, you can pen the 1-2-1's roof pretty well, not every time, but it is overmatchable in most instances. So here we are just fighting an E5 that's hold down, and you can see like the accuracy is good on paper, but in practice it is not. So that shot didn't even go anywhere near that tank. So there we go, pick up the cupola on the enemy 1-2-1, and bounce the E5 like on my turret. So that's really nice. He can't overmatch my roof, and I believe he was shooting AP. As you can see, this is an old game because an old patch. This is 9.17 because there is no advanced damage log in the game. So now just pushing up and going to fight this E5. So I think about this tank is obviously the 3.5 degrees depression. It is quite uncomfortable to play with and requires you to understand the maps and where you can take this tank quite easily to be able to farm damage, etc., and put that DPM into play. because it is extremely uncomfortable play. And you can see I'm actually, well, you probably can't. I'm fighting with the depression here, a little bit of lag. That was a poor shot as well. But just even to get shots like into these positions, you really need to be able to use the terrain to your advantage. Just like that, how I engineered a little bit of depression over the side of my gun to be able to actually put a round into the side of that E5. Get tracked here. That was real lucky. I had a repair kit and pull back just enough so that the 54 E1 cannot clip me out. And he bounces a whole clip on me and dies for it. So, yeah, you can see, like, with even AP is pretty strong. Right now I have 0 issues, like 258 Pen's going to have 0 issues with a T30, who's not hull down. And it shouldn't have any issues, really, with any of the remaining tanks in the game. Maybe the STI, if he's hull down, or angled well, I might have issues, but we'll soon see what happens there. So he just fired and try to go for the little driver's hatch, but it fails to pen. If that was heat, that would have penned guaranteed. And there you can see, like, the SCI is a pretty good tank at T9. So it is fighting these guys, and it's literally, it's just mop up now. STI, hatch, little crew commander's hatch, and just penning that there now. So yeah, pretty much this game's over, and that is a little quick look at the game there. So we ended up with 7.6k damage in this game, and that was the that was a really good game there for the 1-2-1. Now this was my 3-mark game. And as you can see, I'm not going to actually even show you this 3-mark game. I'll put the link for the game down in the description below. However, it is not anything amazing. It actually turned out that this T95 was AFK, and I farmed him from full HP, pretty much, except for one damage or 1 kill for about 100 HP, and that got me my 3 marks. But you'll see, this is my 1-to-1 mark 3-mark session. I averaged 4k damage with 600 assists. Now my previous games are 650 assists almost. My previous games I was averaging about 400 assists with vents, and that putting optics on pushed that assist damage up about 200 extra spot per game, which was enough for me to 3-mark it. I would have 3-marked it with vents, no questions. However, in this instance, running optics helped me out immensely. And the game I will do want to show you is this game here, and we'll open this up now, and I'll just close tanks down. And this is a 9k damage game, and this is actually a game where I was running vents instead of optics. And we're gonna take a look at this now, so you can see where the difference between vents and optics is going to come into play, because when you are in that hold down position and you actually have that couple of second extra reload, you can really pump out some damage very quickly when you are in that perfect position. With and I'll probably discuss it. Actually, I'll discuss it right now. With the next patch, the depression on this tank is going from minus 3.5 degrees to minus 5 degrees. So we're just going to take a look here. So I'll just adjust this audio because it's nothing amazing. So here we are, just with farming like tanks as they cross here, and you can see like people. This is a position I've gone to now. Nice defender, OP tank, shooting them. And so now we're in a position where I would consider optimal for this tank. So we're in a hold down position. We're fighting tier 8s and tier 9s. And they cannot penetrate me. There's almost 0 chance for them. I'm angling my upper front plate enough so that I feel like if they would shoot it, they would bounce it pretty easily. And it's probably at an auto bounce angle right now. So as long as I don't expose my my road wheel, so as long as I don't expose my road wheel here, like this, so as they're looking at here, and they can get a tracking shot in here, if they hit this, more than likely those tier 8s and 9s are gonna auto bounce on that. So here I am, and this is a perfect position right now for this tank. With this 7.3 second reload, or whatever it is, I'll check the tanks.gg website in a minute. This is the position you want to be in with a 1-2-1. It's short to mid range in a hold down position and just farming tanks. It is absolutely awesome. Right? It's well, in my opinion, it's going to be better than a Russian medium next patch. It is, because it has 440 alpha and you can roll regularly above that. Of course, you'll roll lower, but then even if you roll low, you only have like a 3-second extra longer reload than like a 62A, and you're doing 390, 400 alpha per shot. And the damage can rack up really quickly with this tank, like extremely quickly. Because you don't have to take as many shots in order to get the same amount of damage as a 62A, even though the 62A's DPM is like near 4,000 damage per minute with everything equipped and Brothers in Arms and vents and all that sort of stuff. This tank is just able to pump out the damage so quickly because of that alpha and obviously the DPM. So just going to do a turn around here because I'm pretty sure people are driving up behind me. And if you've watched my channel before, you would have seen this replay from a few weeks ago, or if you were on my Twitch. I'm just going to kill this TN28. I'm going to angle. He gets a really weird penetration on me. Let's just take a look here where that penned. Oh yeah, so he penned my upper plate with an AP round, which is not. I mean, there's nothing to it really. He has pretty good penetration. Not too sure what it is on the T28, but I assume it's above whatever 240 or 250 effective this funnel plate is, or 200, whatever funnel plate is. I think it's similar to a T54. So, I'm not all about the statistics, but so we're going to rotate around now. I'm pretty sure this STB is still sitting here. This is a terrible position to go in a tank. He's hiding. So there you go. Like that's a suboptimal roll. Like that's a low roll, 437. But still, that's 437 damage. I've instantly like been able to go back into hold down position, reload, come back up, roll only 417. But in the space of 15 seconds, I've done over 1200 damage. It's just crazy. This tank is so good. So now just rushing in. T34B misses me. On the move, like another low roll, but it's not a big deal. I knew I probably had that T34B on the reload. That thing reloads in like 12 seconds or something. And now it's just full farm mode right now. Probably don't need to be shooting heat at these tier 8s, but when you're on a roll. So there you go. There's a high roll, 476. Like it's so good, this tank. And you can see the damage is quickly stacking up. And we're just going to fast forward here because there's not much damage to happen. We put some shots in this waffle. He bounces me. And now just fight the last two tanks. Unluckily, I got a low roll there. If I had high rolled some more often in this game, I would have easily probably exceeded 10,000 damage. But obviously, I got some bad rolls. But look at that, like 485 damage every it's unreal, this tank. It's so good. It's my favorite tier 10. So there's that game there, and I won't show you the post game stats, or I won't bother even showing you. But obviously you can assume it was an ace tanker. And so with the 121, we were going to compare it against the 62A. So we put vents, rammer, and V-stab on a 62A, and we put some food on it for the time being, and given Brothers in Arms, and snapshot, and smooth ride, and situational awareness. Okay, you can see that straight away with against the 121, it doesn't perform as well. Obviously, like its DPM, its penetration, its reload, it's all going to be less. However, it is faster. It has excellent mobility. It has, and this is not apples to apples. This is with vents. The thing that differentiates it against the 62A is obviously that damage, that alpha. I mean, The 62A has slightly better alpha, like 3,730 versus 3,645, but it is so easy to play this tank when you get into a position like those hold down positions and you can just farm. This is, as I said, it's not a Simon tank. It's not like a 62A which can just like snapshot on the move. You do have to aim with this 2.3 second aim time versus a 1.7 second aim time in 62A. But in my opinion, next patch, once this goes to -5, the same as the current 62A, this is going to be better. You should perform better in this. If you're a bad 62A player, you should perform better in this than a 62A, in my opinion, because it is easier to do damage. It just is. I mean, when you roll like 480, 500, compared to like you could roll 250 or 300 in a 62A. It is absolutely insane. And yeah, it gets that heat, as I said. Yeah, it is 340, as I said, which is so good against Mouses and Type 5 heavies. It really means that you don't have to aim for their, or you're able to take shots at angled Mouses and able to pen. Like that extra 10 mils of penetration over a 330 heat, or even like, compared to another tier 10, like a 300 heat tank, like a Kranvagn tank. It means that you're just able to penetrate these shots so much more easily rather. What do I think of the 121? As I said, like overall, let's take a look at the 3D model. It is extremely good. Yeah, so would I say 240? Yeah, it's about 210 effective, 200 effective, 220 effective upper plate, which is still pretty good. So I mean, even when it's over, like when you angle it like this, okay, like this, when you pulled out like this, I can't turn the turret. There we go. And we angle like this. Okay, you still get like pretty good effective armor, like 260, etc. So it can bounce some tier 10s when you angle properly. Obviously, they can just shoot your side armor, but if you're pulled out properly, and against like tier 8s and especially and some tier 9s rather, this is going to be an auto bounce zone. If you're hold down and all they can see is this part here and the turret, they're going to have a super hard time penetrating you if you're rocking backwards and forwards and pulling out and taking shots. Obviously, the issue is with most maps is this tank it's not great with 3.5 degrees. Yeah, so anyway, that's my 121 rant. As I said, I did 3 market recently. Really proud of it. It's, as I said, my quickest tier 10 3 mark so far. And I actually really enjoyed the tank. Once next patch comes out, I'll probably just play it non-stop. It's so good. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. And I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.